Hey, welcome to the live stream with your financial EKG. My name is Drew Blackston, and this is the Your Financial EKG live stream. We're talking about creating retirement income. I did a poll recently over the weekend. I said, what kind of videos do you want to see more of? What kind of content and actionable advice do you want to see coming from Your Financial EKG and Pearl Wealth Group? And it was an overwhelming response for creating retirement income or retirement income planning. So that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about retirement income planning. We're going to talk about 4 different areas of retirement income planning. We're going to talk about many different little side streets when it comes to those 4 little avenues. And we're going to try to do this all in about 30 minutes or less. Now, remember, if you've not subscribed to the Your Financial EKG YouTube page, make sure you hit the subscribe button now. Smash the like button. If you enjoy this content, leave your questions or comments in this live stream. I'm going to try to answer those. And if you're watching this on a replay, leave your questions or comments below, and we will go through those questions or comments and get answers to you accordingly. All right, so let's talk about creating retirement income, and specifically what you need to be thinking about as you go into retirement, as you're getting closer to retirement. I did a video recently called Numbers That You Need to Know, or really kind of 5 fundamental factors that you need to know going into retirement. And one of those factors, actually the second factor out of the 5, was you got to know what your income's going to be. We got to know where our income's going to come from. We don't want to just kind of blindly go into retirement and hope that the income that we're going to get in retirement satisfies our needs, right? We need to know what our Social Security numbers are going to be. We need to know how much money we're going to take out of our retirement investments. We need to know, if we're going to get pensions, and if we're going to get a pension, how much is that going to be? And are there survivors benefits? We need to know, are we taking dividends and interest off of our portfolios? And how does that work? And what does that look like? So that's really what I want to dive in today in the live stream. All right. So let's talk first, creating retirement income. Let's talk about Social Security, because that's kind of the foundational number or the foundational source of income. When you're talking about retirement income streams, if you're talking about retirement income planning, especially if you are in your late 50s, early 60s, Social Security is the cornerstone, kind of the foundation to your retirement income planning. And, the first thing that I always talk to clients about when it comes to Social Security is, when do we want to take Social Security? When does it make sense for us to take Social Security? Because that's going to be kind of I want to say the cog in the wheel, but it's really going to be the avenue where we pivot. Most of my planning with clients, especially if they're wanting to retire in their 50s or retire at 55, or maybe we're doing retirement planning in their 60s, they're always saying, okay, if I retire at 55, I've got to get to 62 before I start taking Social Security, or I got to get to 65 or 67 or 70. So we've got this gap of 5, 10, 15, 20 years before we need to start taking Social Security. So we really need to know, when are we going to start taking Social Security? And I think we just got our first comment on here. Hey, Big Sean, thank you so much for watching and leaving a awesome comment. We're going to keep this going. So we got to think about our Social Security. So if we're in our 50s and you don't know what your Social Security is, you can go to SSA, that's samsamalpha.gov. You can sign up through the Social Security Administration. You can get your own login, and you can find out what your Social Security is going to be. Because you want to know what your Social Security is going to be at 62. You want to know what your Social Security is going to be at 66 in 10 months, or 67, whatever your full retirement age is. And you want to know what your Social Security is going to be at 70, because those are the 3 big numbers. Now you understand that you can take Social Security anytime you want after 62. So you can take it at 62, 63, 64, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 70. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense to take it after 70. If you take it at 62, you're going to get about 70% of what your full retirement benefit is. If you take it at 67, which is just assume that's your full retirement age, you're going to get 100% of your benefit. If you take it at 70, you're actually going to get 120% of your full Social Security benefit. Okay. Now I know that was kind of a mouthful of numbers, but when we're looking at doing our Social Security planning, we want to know if we take it early, we're going to get less benefit. If we take it at full retirement age, we're going to get our full benefit. And if we wait to 70, we're going to get more of our benefit. And depending on your personal situation is really going to depend on when you want to take Social Security. You know, a lot of people think, oh, I'm just going to take it at 62 no matter what because it's running out of money and I want to get my money. And that's great. I did a video on, 5 reasons why you want to take Social Security at 62. Yeah, take it, get your money. That's great. But, if your spouse is 10 years younger than you, then it really makes sense for you to delay Social Security as long as possible. Or if your spouse was a homemaker, maybe your spouse stayed home with the kids, or maybe, they worked a job where it was more freelance work and they didn't pay into Social Security as much. And their Social Security is not going to be as much as yours or even half of yours. Then it makes sense for you to delay Social Security to get a bigger check. So that if something happens to you, you pass away, they're getting a bigger Social Security check. So it makes sense to look at Social Security in more of a personal way. When does it fit you? When does it fit your personal financial plan? And so let me kind of give you a couple easy scenarios to think about with Social Security. The first is, why would I take Social Security at 62? Okay. A lot of people ask, Drew, why would I take Social Security at 62? Well, it's pretty easy. The first reason why you would take Social Security at 62 is just because you need the money. You're retiring. You don't really want to touch your retirement investments. Maybe you've got a large 401k or money in an IRA, and you're not wanting to tap that for income. So you're to say, listen, I'm going to take my Social Security early because it's going to be more tax efficient than taking money out of my IRA or my 401k. So that's why people will take their Social Security at 62. Another reason why people will take Social Security at 62 is because at that point you can start taking what they call spousal benefits. And what spousal benefits are, let's say your Social Security is $2,000. And your spouse would get $500 because, like I said, same example, they're a freelance worker or maybe they didn't pay into Social Security. Well, if yours is at $2,000, your spouse can get a spousal benefit as long as they're 62 and you started taking Social Security at 62 of up to half of your benefit. Now at 62, if they apply at 62 and you're 62, it's actually 32% of your benefit. And if they apply at full retirement age, it's half. And so some people take Social Security early so that they can start taking those spousal benefits. All right. But again, your situation is going to be different than the person next door, than your neighbor, than, your friends down the street, or really think about this. All the articles you read, whether it's on Forbes, Market Watch, Barron's, Motley Fool, what do they all say? Wait to 67 to take Social Security. Wait to 70 to take Social Security. Doesn't always work for everybody. I got a lot of clients. I would say the mass majority of my clients have taken Social Security early and it's made sense for them. But we've done the full financial plan with them and we made sure that it makes the most sense. Okay. So let's talk about how Social Security is taxed, because how Social Security is taxed will determine when you're going to take Social Security. So Social Security is taxed differently from every other form of income. And how Social Security is taxed is how all your other income is calculated. Okay. I know it's almost like watching Russell Crowe in A Beautiful Mind when he's up on the board. That's how I feel when I explain how Social Security is taxed, because basically what the Social Security Administration, what the IRS says is they take your traditional income, they add that to 50% of your Social Security income, and that gives you your provisional income, which determines how much your Social Security is taxed, okay? So your traditional income is IRA distributions, interest, dividends, any kind of wages you may get, and tax-free municipal bonds. Okay, so that's your traditional income. They add that to 50% of your Social Security income. So let's say your traditional income is $40,000, and your Social Security is 20. So they take half of your Social Security plus your traditional, that's 40, plus 10 to get $50,000 in provisional income. Now, whether you're single or married determines the threshold that you go over. If you're married, $42,000 is the threshold, meaning that 85% of your Social Security is now used in the calculation of your taxes. So let's back up again. Again, we're going to Russell Crowe this. $40,000 is your traditional income. $20,000 is your Social Security. We just learned that 85% of your Social Security is going to be used in the calculation of your taxes. So you take, I'm gonna get my calculator so I do this right. Take $20,000, multiply that by 85%, that's $17,000. So 40,000 plus 17 now, right? So that's $57,000 is your income that goes on your taxes as taxable income. And then you have deductions and all that after that. So you see how it's just a huge kind of like almost calculation to get to that. And that's why, again, I always tell people when you're doing your Social Security planning, we want to do it right because you really only get one shot at claiming Social Security. I mean, when you take it, that's it. Now you can readjust that. You get a one-time redo, but the bad part about the redo with Social Security is if you go, oh, I want to redo this you got to do it within the first 12 months. You got to pay back like all the Social Security that you took. And so most of my clients and people that I talk to, I have never run into anybody that's actually redone their decision. And so you want to make sure that when you claim Social Security, you're doing it at the right time. Okay. So let's talk about the COLA increase for Social Security this year. We're actually going to see a 5.9% Social Security COLA increase for this year, which is the largest cost of living adjustment for Social Security in over 40 years, which is incredible. And I just did a video on this called Calculating Your Social Security COLA Increase. Now, it sounds great. So every year with your Social Security, you get what they call a cost of living adjustment. And that cost of living adjustment is based on the CPIW or the CPIU. I'm not sure which one it is because they want to change it to the CPIE. But they use the Consumer Price Index. Let me back up. The Consumer Price Index based on clerical workers. Okay, that's kind of the index. It's an old school index. It probably needs to be updated. But that's what they use to calculate the cost of living adjustments for Social Security. And so this year we have a 5.9% increase in that CPI, which in turn gives the Social Security a 5.9% COLA increase. COLAs aren't guaranteed. There have been years where there's been a 0% cost of living adjustment. In 2020, it was like 1.5% cost of living adjustment. I think in 2012 was a 0. You'd have to check me on that. But there are years where COLA gets a 0% increase. So you can't necessarily count on COLAs every year. And another reason why you can't count on COLAs, I talked about this in my video. When you're on Social Security, you're usually on Medicare at 65. And out of your Social Security check, they take your Medicare Part B premium. Okay, so your Medicare Part B premium right now for your Medicare insurance is $148.50. They take that directly out of your Social Security. Well, this year, the Medicare Part B premium is going from $148 to $158. It's a $10 increase. It's a 6% increase in your Medicare Part B premium. So you're getting a 5.9% increase in your Social Security check, but you're getting a 6% increase in your Medicare Part B premium, which means the average check for Social Security is going up about $92, but they're going to take another $10 off top of that for Medicare, which it takes it down to $82. So the government giveth and the government giveth away or taketh away when it comes to Social Security and your Social Security COLA increases. So, those are just things that we need to be thinking about when we're deciding how are we going to take our retirement income? When are we going to take Social Security? Another factor to be thinking about in the year 2033, Social Security at its current level, at the current way it's set up, will not have the funds to pay out 100% of benefits. So they're only going to be able to pay out a calculated amount of 78% of benefits, a 22% reduction. So if your Social Security, just using round numbers here, is $1,000 a month, they're going to take 22% off of that. So again, let me grab my calculator because I don't want to screw this up on a live stream. That's $220. So $1,000 minus 220, that's $780. So your full benefit's $1,000, but they're only going to be able to pay out $780. Now that's at the current level in November 1st, 2021. That's not going to happen until 2033. So we're hoping that Congress does something. If you watch the news at all, they just kind of kick the can at this point. They probably will wait till the last minute to do anything about it. And even at that point, I don't know if they can. So that's, again, why it's so important to have a retirement income plan. What I tell my client, I'm 35 years old. If you're working with me and you're in your 40s, your 30s, or your 20s, I tell people, do not count on Social Security. Do not count on government assistance when it comes to your retirement income. And I don't mean that in the sense of like the government's going to go away and our system's going to fail. I'm not saying that. I do believe that Social Security will be around and Medicare, and they'll make the appropriate adjustments. I just don't think it'll be in the same form that it is today, right? I don't think it'll be in the same fashion like our grandparents or even our parents have been able to enjoy. I think for us, it's going to be much different, which is why I need you to plan on your own retirement. Make sure that your retirement investments, make sure that your retirement income can be sustained by your retirement investments, and you're not relying or thinking about, oh, well, I'm going to get Social Security, so that's going to take care of that. I mean, we can't YOLO forever, right? I'm a millennial, and we are the king of YOLOs. And so you've got to make sure that your retirement investments are going to take care of your retirement income. You need a plan. You need to start doing that plan today. All right. So that's Social Security. I'm going to move on unless there's other questions about Social Security. We talked about when to take it, what makes the most sense for you, how's it taxed, and COLA in 2033 paying less benefits. All right. I'm going to take a quick drink. No questions. All right. So let's talk about creating retirement income. Let's talk about dividends. A lot of times we'll talk to clients and they'll say, well, I'm going to take dividends off my account. Okay. So what a dividend is if a stock pays you a percentage of money for owning or holding that stock. It could be anywhere from 0.01% all the way up into the high 12%, depending on what kind of stock you own. Normally, real estate investment trusts, master limited partnerships, unit investment trusts, those are going to pay a lot of higher dividends. You know, REITs or real estate investment trusts, by their designation, have to pay out about 90% of their profits in dividends. So a lot of people will own REITs or MLPs or UITs or preferred stocks or whatever because they're getting a higher dividend from that, and they're using that dividend to live off of. So there's a couple of things I want you to think about when it comes to dividends when creating retirement income. The first thing is dividends are variable. Okay, so dividends are going to go up and dividends are going to go down. We saw this in 2020, right? The pandemic happened in 2020. And if you owned Ford, if you owned GM stock, they were paying a really good dividend. But man, when 2020 hit, they stopped paying dividends. And so if you were expecting that or relying on that in retirement as retirement income, you were kind of in a world of hurt because it's not there anymore. It was gone. So dividends, as good as they can be, if you can build a retirement portfolio, say you got retirement investments of $1 million or $2 million, and you can get $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 off of that in dividends, those dividends are not guaranteed and they are variable. So you can see companies say, hey, I'm going to take those back. And you can see companies say, hey, not take them back out of your account, but not, they're going to say, listen, we ain't going to pay a dividend because we haven't had a good quarter. We haven't had a good year. We're going to stop that. We're going to reduce it. We're going to increase it. So dividends are variable. So you want to be real careful when you're planning your retirement income off of dividends. What I tell clients is this. Let's say you have a portfolio of $1 million. And let's say that's a 4% dividend. You got a 4% dividend yield on your $1 million. So that means it's going to pay you $40,000 a year. What I would say is give yourself about a 1% hedge. So if you think you're going to get 4% interest off of your portfolio and dividends, make that 3% and plan for that. Because if you get the 4, that's a 1% increase than what you thought you were going to get. But if you get the 3, because of the variations in the dividends and how the stock market has become, then you feel a lot better about owning that money. And keep in mind too, people always say, well, if I own, this stock, it's going to pay me this 5, 6, 7, 8, 9% dividend. Normally, if a stock's paying a high dividend, there's a reason for that. It's trying to get people to buy the stock. And a lot of times that's because the stock sucks or the earnings are terrible. And so the stock's going down. They're raising the dividend because they want more people to own it. But the actual underlying value that you put into the stock is going down, which means the dividend that they're paying you based on the shares that you own, it's not a win-win. So you really want to be careful when it comes to creating your retirement income only off of dividends. Now, I'm not telling you not to use dividends. I think dividends are a wonderful piece. But when you are creating your retirement income, think about it like think about it like building a house. Okay. Now I'm going to go back here to the board real quick so I can show you this. But think about creating retirement income. I got to shake this a little bit. Think about creating retirement income like building a house. Okay. So when you build a house, right, you've got a foundation, right? You've got a foundation to your house. So this is going to be like your Social Security or maybe a pension. If you're a lucky person to get a pension from a company, Social Security and your pension, that's your foundation to your house, okay? The walls of your house, this is your dividends. So this is any kind of interest that's variable. So any kind of variable income coming off of your portfolio, that's going to be the walls of your house. And I tell people that. Now, I live in Florida, and we deal with these things called hurricanes. If you live in other states, you don't know the beauty of dealing with hurricanes every year. Now, I did grow up in Kentucky, so we dealt with tornadoes, I think tornadoes are scarier because you don't know when they're coming, and usually it's like 2 a.m. and you're jarred out of bed, and you're thrown into the basement by your parents. Hurricanes, you've got like at least a week to prepare. And really, come March, they start telling you to stock up, like get your water, get your food. But when you're creating your retirement income, it's a lot like a hurricane. You want your foundational income, whether that's Social Security, pensions. We can throw annuities down there because if they're paying out a guaranteed stream of income for you, that's what you want to be solid, right? When Jesus told the parable about the man who built his house on the rock, when the storms of life came, the house stood. But the man who built his house in the sand, when the storm came, it washed his house away. And you can equate this to your investments as well. You could say, okay, my foundational retirement investments are going to be investments that are safe, that are going to be considered safe. And as you go up your house, up your walls into your roof, those are more of your growth investments. But let's talk about income. That's another time. So your Social Security, your pension, maybe some annuity income, that's your foundation. Your walls are your dividends or any of your interest. That's going to be really your variable. Now, I haven't mentioned bond interest. And people are like, well, aren't you talking about bond? Who's buying bonds? Nobody's buying bonds today. The interest rates are too low. But when you are able to buy bonds, let's say you're able to buy U.S. Treasuries, those are going to fall into the foundation down here. Okay. If you're buying corporate bonds, they have to pay, but keep in mind, just because a bond is an A-rated or a B-rated company and they are obligated to pay that coupon payment, if the company goes out of business, the bondholders are first in line to recoup their capital, but that doesn't mean you're going to get the income anymore. You're going to get your underlying capital back, right? Maybe your $1,000 or $100,000 that you bought the bond with. You're going to get that back. But you can't get that retirement income back. And maybe you can't reinvest that retirement income into something else, paying you a higher or same as income. So that's why you want your foundation to build your income. And this is all your fluff, right? This is all your extra on top of that. Okay. I hope that makes sense. Now let's talk about how dividends are taxed. Dividends are taxed as dividends. Okay. So right now they're taxed at 10 or 15%. Depending on your income threshold. Could be 0. I have clients who are taxed 0% of their dividends based on where their tax bracket is at or what their income is. With Social Security, we just talked about that. Any dividend you get is considered traditional income, which you take your traditional income, you add it to 50% of your Social Security, which gives you your provisional. So dividends fall into your traditional income. So again, if you're using dividends as retirement income, it could cause your Social Security tax to go up. So again, it's all just kind of having a good plan. You really want to have a really good plan. All right. So I think I need another drink. I've talked about Social Security. We've talked about dividends when we're talking about creating retirement income. I'm going to talk about the third approach that we use here at our firm. It's called market appreciation or market depreciation, depending on when you're watching this. But market appreciation is another way that we help clients create retirement income. And again, I want to show you this, not necessarily to kind of scare you, because I don't want to scare you. This is just, and it's actually the last 10 years, market appreciation has been a great way to create retirement income. So let me take a drink. Best dad in the galaxy. That's me today. My wife loves her cricket machine. My bank account does not. So we talked about Social Security. We talked about dividends. Let's talk about market appreciation when talking about creating retirement income. A lot of times what I'll do for clients, I'm going to erase this. Is that okay with you guys? Because we'll come back to this. All right. So when you create these glass board markers, you have to shake them. When you create retirement income based off of market appreciation, it's going to be a yearly look at. You're going to look at this every 12 months, because here's how I do it with clients. So let's say the market goes up like it did last year. It's up 30%. So if you started with $100,000 and you made 30%, that's $30,000. So that's an extra $30,000 that you can take as income the next year. January 1st, 2021, you made your 30%, you can take that $30,000 off. If the market goes down 30%, now we're at $70,000. So we don't want to take any income off of our investments. So when I talk about market appreciation for creating retirement income, remember the house, of course, I just erased the house, but that's going to be your roof. So that's going to be income that is not guaranteed, is not promised, and you might not get it every year. And think about it like, so we live near Orlando, or we're in Tampa, which is about an hour and a half outside of Orlando. So we've been to Disney. I have 3 kids. They love Disney World. And so when you're thinking about market appreciation, think about it like Space Mountain. If you've ever been on Space Mountain, you go into the ride. It's awesome because it's dark. And so as you're standing in line, they're creating this atmosphere. Disney's creating this atmosphere. You hear the sounds of space. It's like, boom, boom, boom. And it's dark. And you get on this little roller coaster, and it's a 3-seater, boom, boom, boom. And then the people behind you, 3 more. And you go up this climb. And as you go up this climb, you see the shuttles and all the rockets. It's getting darker. And you come to the crest of the hill, and you look down, and it's completely dark. And that's what creating retirement income is like with market appreciation. It's in the dark. You don't know where you're going. There's twists, there's turns. You're going here, you're going there. You know you're going to get some income. Like, you know you're getting off the roller coaster. You just don't know how it's going to look. And so I tell people, when you're creating retirement income with a roller coaster, it's going to look like this, right? There's going to be years where you're going to be able to take a lot of income right here. But there's also going to be years where you're not going to want to take any retirement income. And so once you start to move into retirement, once you start to land the plane into your retirement journey, you want to create retirement income that's more like a railroad track. Not necessarily like a roller coaster, but more like railroad tracks, a little bit more consistent. And so that might mean you might have to not be so aggressive in your investments. You know, if the market does 30%, we all want to make 30. But if the market does negative 30, we don't want to lose 30. So if we're moving into retirement and we're trying to create retirement income based off of market appreciation, we probably want to scale back our investments. We want to scale back our growth. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with trying to hit home runs. Again, I'm 35, so I'm trying to hit as many home runs as I can when it comes to my retirement investments, but not my retirement income. My dad's 67. Actually, I think he's 68. And so he doesn't need to be taking the same amount of risk that I am in order to create his retirement income. He needs to back off of Space Mountain and go to the Walt Disney World Railroad. Be a little bit more consistent. Because if we're here 30, right, but we're here 30, and if we lose money in the market, in order for it to get back to even or where we were, you almost have to make double and sometimes triple. And if you're taking out income along the way, you're in a losing battle. You're just not going to get there. So market appreciation for creating retirement income is probably my least favorite way of creating retirement income, but it is something that I do for clients every year in January, February. Look at their accounts, say, okay, what have you made? And is there something special you want to do? Is there something obviously COVID, everybody stayed home, which was, from a portfolio standpoint, they made all this money and they were like, no, I guess we don't need it. So that was nice on our front because we rebalanced and we were able to continue to appreciate their accounts. And again, this year's been kind of the same. We've been able to really stay in. But there might be years where they say, I want to take that river cruise, or I want to buy that car, for my granddaughter, or, we want to do whatever. And so you can look at your account and say, oh, I made $10,000 this year. Let's take that $10,000 out. Obviously there's taxes depending on, what type of account it is, but I want to take that $10,000 out and I want to use that for my retirement income. Okay. I think you can see me sweating a little bit here. Weather's come down a little bit in Florida. I think the high today is 73, which is nice, but I still got to have a fan on because it is hot. All right, so we've talked about Social Security. We've talked about dividends. We've talked about market appreciation. I want to talk about the last investment. I'm going to give this 5 minutes, and I want to talk about the last form of creating retirement income, probably one of the most controversial, and that's called annuities. And I'm not here to sell you an annuity. I'm just here to educate you on what it is and why we use it for clients. So an annuity is an insurance contract with an insurance company. And you've got 3 types of annuities. You got fixed, fixed indexed, and variable. And inside of those 3, fixed index, and variable, you've got like a gazillion others. You've got like hybrids and market linked and variable linked and indexed and all kinds of different annuities. And how they grow their assets or how your money grows inside of an annuity, there's like a gazillion ways depending on the type and depending on the product, depending on the company. But we use a lot of annuities for clients in the sense of if we're trying to do one of 2 things for income, when we're trying to create retirement income, if the client wants a guaranteed amount of income every month for the rest of their life, we use an annuity. A lot of times if the client wants that. And there's 2 types. You have SPIAs, which are what they call single premium income annuities. So a SPIA annuity will pay you put $100,000 in it and it'll pay, I'm just giving you a number, $5,000 a year, every year for the rest of your life. Or you can put $100,000 into it and you can delay that payment 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, depending on however long you want to delay it. Then it'll pay you a certain amount of money when you decide you want to take it. Okay. So that's how annuities work, or that's how a SPIA works. You also have what they call an income rider. Now, an income rider is not attached to a SPIA. An income rider is attached to a fixed indexed annuity or a variable annuity. And what an income rider is, it says, okay, it's kind of this extra cog in the annuity that's growing at some kind of rate. And whenever you want income, you can take it out of the annuity. It'll guarantee this amount based on how the market has grown, and it'll pay you and your spouse, however it's set up, for the rest of your lives. And so we use annuities a lot in our practice for clients who want a more guaranteed stream of income. Now, not everybody fits that. Some people like we've got Social Security, we're taking money out of the market, that works for them. And listen, again, I'm an independent fiduciary advisor. I don't care what we use. I always tell people, I'll give them options. I'll say, hey, these are ideas. And I'll say, have you ever been to a Ford dealer? When you went to the Ford dealer, did they try to sell you a Chevy? Well, of course not. They wanted to sell you a Ford. And if you go to a Chevy dealer, they're not going to try to sell you a Ford. They're going to try to sell you a Silverado. Well, for me as a fiduciary, as an independent advisor, I'm more like CarMax because I want to offer, I want to give you advice based on where you're at. I'm a family of 3 kids, a wife, and 2 dogs. If I show up at CarMax and they try to sell me a Mustang, I'm going to walk out. Like, I don't need that. I need a minivan. Like, I need the minivan with the TVs and the air conditioner in the seat because it's hot in Florida and my kids scream at me when they ride in the car. So I need a TV and I need an AC on my butt. Okay. So I'm like CarMax. So when I talk about annuities, I'm saying, okay, does this fit what you're trying to do? And if you're meeting with an advisor and he's trying to put all your money in an annuity or all your money in the market or all your money into any investment, you need to run, because that's not a fiduciary. You need diversification. So we use annuities in the sense of if we're trying to get guaranteed income. And it's just a piece of the puzzle. Again, we've got Social Security. We have maybe the annuity. We've got some dividends. We've got market appreciation. And maybe we've got a systematic withdrawal coming from a required minimum distribution or whatever. Okay, so that's been creating retirement income. Are there any questions? I'm going to hang out just for a second, take another drink, see if there's any questions. I know your mind can only absorb what your hind end can take. And it's been about 35 minutes, and I don't want to take too much of your time. Plus, I've been drinking green tea all day, so I got to run and empty myself out. But are there any questions about creating retirement income? Nothing. Okay. Well, hey, thank you so much for watching the Your Financial EKG Creating Retirement Income. Make sure, if you're not subscribed to the channel, you hit subscribe on the button below, smash the like button if you enjoy this content. And if you're just now joining me, we are going to end this live stream now. We've been going for about 35 minutes, but it will be on record on the YouTube channel. Again, thank you so much for coming. We'll talk to you soon. God bless. Bye-bye.